So, hello everyone, welcome. My name is Charmaine, and my goal here on Instagram is to help people travel cheaper, longer, and happier on a budget. And of course, trying to show people how you can travel with alternative lifestyles. So, of course, I've been a really long time fan of yours, of how you guys been showing the world how to pet sit and how to travel affordably on a budget. So, I'm just gonna give you the mic so you can introduce yourself.
All right.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Austin. This is Jory.
Yeah. Nice to meet you guys. We're nomads and hot pots. Yeah. And we have been traveling the world as pet sitters since November of 2021. And yeah.
Yeah. That's the introduction.
Been a good 2 years.
Yeah. But yeah, so a little more about us. We're Oregon natives. We actually grew up in different hometowns, but nearby, didn't know each other, but I grew up in kind of Salem, Oregon area. Austin grew up in Portland area.
Yeah. I grew up in Southwest Portland for 18 years, and then I moved over to Bend after school. I went to college down in Western Nevada in Carson City, Nevada, and then transferred to Oregon State University here in Bend.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I was going to school in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Up there, loved it, beautiful area. And then I came back and was going to school at OSU Corvallis. And then I moved over to Redmond, Oregon in 2020. It was like kind of right at the start of the pandemic, actually. And then we met. We met on Tinder on a dating app. And now we're here doing this together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. It seems like you guys have both have moved quite a bit, and found each other halfway there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what fuels our passion to travel, is that we were always, at least for me, Jory as well, but we were always moving around, going to school out of state, and then just traveling, not moving homes pretty regularly, moving cities. So, and just going on family vacations, things like that. So, travel has always been a part of my life as well as Jory's. So it's nice that we get to continue that lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with states like or countries like the US or Canada, like they're so big, so there's so much to go around, and they're so different in every part.
That's so true. I was just thinking the other day, I've been to more countries abroad than I have US states, which is kind of weird. So we got to get caught up on that. There really is so much to see in this country alone. It's wild.
Yeah, it's a big country.
Yeah.
And with Canada.
Yeah. Same thing. Yeah. And I feel the same thing. Like I just feel so humbled when I'm in different part. I'm like, where am I? Am I still in the same country?
Yeah.
But awesome. So that's a really great introduction. So I just wanted to, I have a few questions prepared. Really excited to talk about your journey and how these 2 years have been. Obviously, it's been very transformative, I'm sure. But really excited to hear about how you got started. So my first question for you is, how did you get started with pet sitting, and how did you combine that passion with traveling?
Yeah. Yeah. So essentially, like Austin was saying, our goal has for a long time been to find a way to travel and do it affordably. We met during the pandemic. So during that time, we were itching to travel, but couldn't because borders were closed. And yeah, so we were just kind of working our traditional jobs. I was working customer service at a brewery, and Austin's ran landscaping. And during that time, we were just working and saving, trying to prepare for the opportunity to travel in the future and researching ways to travel. Our goal was to do a work visa in Australia or New Zealand. We still think that is a fantastic way to travel and something we still might do one of these days. But yeah, when I was trying to find some budget-friendly travel options, I found a blog post talking about pet sitting. And it was talking about trusted house sitters, actually. It was talking about the exchange, pet sit for free in exchange for a free stay in countries around the world. And I thought it was BS. It was legitimate because it just sounded too good to be true. I mean, we were both animal lovers growing up, surrounded ourselves with pets, and to find a way to combine our passions for travel and pets just blew our minds, as well as being able to do it, travel affordably. So anyway, we continued working here locally, and during that time, we actually squeezed pet sitting in. So our first house sit ever was in Bend, Oregon. So we were still working our traditional jobs, and we were caring for 2 cats, and we were able to just, live there for free for a month, in one of the most expensive cities to live in Oregon, and pet sit, work, and then we started doing it more in the Pacific Northwest before eventually going abroad for our first time in January of 2022.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. Yeah. And like you said, like it sounds too good to be true, but we see over the internet that people are doing this full time, and obviously you two are proof of it as well.
Yeah, it truly is. I mean, there's so many opportunities out there right now, especially as travel's starting to pick back up. There's so many sits listed, and we have. I mean, it's such a fun way to travel, and it's very unique for us. And it's nothing. I mean, we look back 2 years ago, and we look at what now, and just can't. It's amazing what we've created, and it's just such a weird thing that we're doing, but we love it.
Yeah,
it's taken us places that we would have never gone.
Yeah. And like you said, we're far from the only people doing it. I mean, we've connected with a really amazing community just here on Instagram of traveling pet sitters and homeowners who use trusted house sitters or other websites. And it's amazing. I mean, it really is a lifestyle. It's kind of like van life. There's the van lifers and now sitters.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
Yeah, 100%. And so I know you guys are obviously traveling as a couple, but I want to also ask you, do you think it is for other people, like individuals, for families, for, people who want to bring their pets? Like, who is this really for?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I mean, a lot of people have reached out to us asking if, they're doing it as a couple, they're asking, can I do it as a solo traveler? And the answer is yes. There's definitely an opportunity for travelers who are solo to go out there and do it. And same with people who have families or if they have their own animals. The only, thing is it's going to limit some of the opportunities you might have if you're a solo traveler, or if you have a pet or animal or a pet or a family. But that's just kind of the fun part about it. You have to dig in a little bit more to find those listings that are going to work for you.
Yeah. And I think solo travelers specifically, I think they have actually in a lot of cases a leg up, because we found that some animals, they might feel overwhelmed. There might be rescues or they just have anxiety and things. And so they prefer having single sitters in their home. Or it might be, we've ran into the situation where the apartment in Greece, for example, we applied to one there, and the apartment was just suitable for one person and wasn't really big enough for 2 people. So solo travelers, I mean, they definitely have a good opportunity.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities for solo. And then, with your own pet, like we were saying, there is some limits, but it definitely doesn't mean you can't. We know some sitters that actually bring their animals with them to all the sits that they do. So there's opportunities for people who are out there with their own animal and want to do this lifestyle. And same with family. You just have to communicate that with the owners that you're applying to. I think one of the biggest things that we kind of hammer home is communication is key, making sure you're open and telling people what's going on before you get to the sit. And they'll usually work with you to try to make sure that what you need is met, because they recognize that this exchange is a fair exchange, and they really want to make sure everyone is having a good time and benefiting from the exchange.
Yeah, that's great. And I think I know the trusted house sitters, I'm guessing like maybe they have some requirements. So they might say like, oh, we prefer couples or we prefer solo travelers. I'm guessing those might be written somewhere in those requirements usually.
Yeah. Typically the listing will give you a really good overview of what the homeowner is looking for. And if for some reason something's left blank or you're just not sure, you can totally just send a message and ask. I mean, that's always the best thing, like you're saying, just communication.
Amazing. I already have a question that came in.
Great.
So I am going to go away. I'm going to just ask it. So the question was, what about insurance and retirement? Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing insurance as in like travel insurance or even any kind of safety insurance.
Yeah. Insurance. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah. So as far as travelers insurance goes, for us, we have used Safety Wing in the past. We think it's a good option for budget travelers. But I think we're interested in researching other opportunities. Essentially, what I'm getting at here is there are a lot of opportunities out there for travelers insurance that it's kind of up to each individual to figure out what's best for them. For us, for retirement, I mean, we are still working and generating income. So we just have our budget where we set that money aside. And but the other thing too is, our plans are kind of building as we go. We're not putting a ton of pressure on ourselves right now to be, hitting a benchmark by the end of this year. We're just working toward our goals. So we're just doing what we can. And
yeah, and I think if they're talking more health insurance,
yeah.
Again, if you're working remote and you're earning a certain amount of income, you're either going to have to qualify for a certain private insurance within the United States. If you're a U.S. citizen, again, all this is so situational for whatever country you are living in. But yeah, for certain health insurances, you'll have to, pay the premium to have private insurance. But then for travelers insurance, there's a lot of different options. Like she said, the Safety Wing is a good budget option. Yeah, and then retirement, like she was saying, we still are, putting money into 401ks and stuff as we can. But our goal is to continue to grow as digital marketers, but then also to potentially grow into a different media business or something. We're still working on our goals. We have a 10-year plan that we're working towards, and that's kind of our goals in life, is to continue growing and working on our career development as well.
Amazing. I'm impressed that you guys have a 10-year plan. That's a long plan.
It's very, broad, but it's kind of, we're trying to, we set benchmarks for ourselves, and we try to get to our goals, because that's, for us, we're very goal oriented, and we want to continue to grow as people and as a company.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think I know we're probably going to touch a little bit more on this later, but I think I don't know if you mentioned about like when you first started traveling, did you guys save up in the beginning in order to get the ball rolling?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was because initially our initial plan was just to travel and to do like go stay in hostels, do a work visa like she mentioned. So we actually did save up a big, a chunk of change. I think we had about $5,000 to $10,000 each that we had saved over time. We were lucky enough to be able to have a savings account, and but our main goal was to go and travel and just travel. It didn't have pet sitting involved, but then once we found pet sitting, that actually made our budget stretch even further. And so for the first, I don't know if it was for the first year, probably less than the first year, we weren't making, we kind of quit our jobs and we were just doing this. We planned to do it for a few months and just travel to the places we wanted to. But then we learned that by sharing what we're doing, we could generate some revenue and sustain our travels through this. And so that's kind of how it started. And then as we picked up steam and kept traveling and growing, we were able to generate enough to just make our life and our travels dreams possible.
Yeah, amazing. And obviously you've built a really strong community here. Very evident through your Instagram and I've seen your website as well. So you've obviously have built a really strong community. And I think the thing that really stands out is educating others about this opportunity that most people don't know about.
Yeah.
I wanted to also ask about a little bit about the finance aspect, because since we already started touching on this. So so how does it work for pet sitting? Like, do you earn income from it, or how do you generate income in order to support your lifestyle in this?
You want to take this?
Sure. Yeah. That's a great question. So essentially, when we're doing house sitting through websites like Trusted House Sitters, it's a free exchange only. And that's because, especially when we're going international, to avoid any sort of like visa issues, you can't be paid to work in a foreign country. So it's a straight cost exchange. It's just free accommodation for free pet care. And if you want to do it domestically, like here in the United States, we could be house sitting through sites like Rover and get paid. House Sitters America offers options to get paid or do free exchanges. So that's pretty cool. WAG. There are definitely opportunities to do paid pet sitting, and we've heard of people who have been able to make it a full-time nomadic lifestyle as well. That sounds a little bit harder actually to us, but we haven't tried it ourselves. So
yeah, well, we used to do paid sits for friends and family before we really started doing this. So that was kind of getting our feet wet, is doing it for friends and family. Realized that the lifestyle was manageable for us, and we earned some income doing that for fun. And so that's one way you can make money, but through, like you're saying, through websites like Trusted House Sitters, you don't earn any income through it.
Yeah. But then as far as like funding the travels goes, I think, again, something that's really interesting when we talk to people about our finances is they don't realize really how little money we're spending. We've had months where we've spent like $600 when we were just staying in, our local hometown, not really driving around a lot, only buying our food really.
Yeah, groceries
and so then, we I don't know, a few months ago, we did our 3-month travels throughout Europe and spent around like $8,000 on that.
Yeah, for 3 months.
Yeah, so again, it's like our cost of living, it's kind of as much or as little as we want it to be, depending on how we're coordinating our travels. And so the point is, we don't really need a lot of income to fund that. And we've been able to just create our business and generate enough income to fund our travels. But for other people, it definitely would require you to have some sort of passive income or working remotely. You need money to do this. I mean, since you're not being paid, you need to have some income coming in.
Yeah, and definitely if you're doing it full time. And I think we'll go more into it because there are other ways you can utilize this type of travel with not, and you don't have to be a remote worker. You could be someone who's still working, but you use it as a weekend getaway or something. So there are ways you can use it without being a digital marketer or an online worker. So
that's super.
But financially, the way that we've earned income is through growing our community, doing affiliate marketing, doing brand partnerships, collaborations, things like that earn in revenue for us.
Yeah. Amazing. And of course, Instagram is a great space to do that. Of course, everyone talks about, being an influencer and, building up your brand partnership. So do you usually do a lot of brand partnerships and like promoting different products that you use on your website, or you also do what they call user-generated content, UGC?
Yeah, we don't do any UGC, although that is something that is interesting to us and we have definitely considered, but have not done yet.
Working towards that.
Yeah. But mostly affiliate marketing through products and partnerships, a variety, like travel, either pet sitting related or travel related, just things we use and actually really believe in.
Just promoting the products that we genuinely like and use.
Yeah, and promoting those through videos and education and through your website, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Great. I actually do have another question that just came in. So the question was, to start, what should be considered for as an experience? Like, what kind of experience do you need to get started?
That's a great question.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So they will say that kind of the bare minimum is that you are a responsible animal lover. I think what I would recommend to someone who maybe doesn't have experience beyond that is to try and volunteer locally, start walking dogs for an animal shelter, or see if you can house sit for friends or family. Just try to find ways to be around animals. And if you can, and house sit for people. And that won't only help you feel more comfortable trying house sitting through a platform like Trusted House Sitters, but it'll help you learn about like ways to stay safe, ways to keep the animals safe, learning about pets' behaviors, and also just doing a lot of research. Like, you can find endless information out there of pet safety. It wouldn't be a bad idea, at least watch some videos about pet CPR. You don't necessarily need to go get certified, but it's just good to do whatever you can to be a sponge and absorb as much information as possible.
Yeah, being proactive within the community and just trying to educate yourself is going to be really helpful. There's a lot of resources like you saying online, things like that. So it really, I mean, to begin, and if you're talking about beginning your profile on a website, just having good up-to-date photos of you with animals and things that, talking about your experiences. And then if you've done pet sitting for friends or family in the past, getting them to do a reference for you on the site, that will always, if it might not be an internal review for the sitter to feel that that's reliable, but they'll at least see that and know that you are who you say you are. And it gives them a little peace of mind.
Yeah. So for anyone who's just starting out too, keep in mind that every person who joins one of these websites, they are also new. They're in the same exact position you are. So it's up to you to just do what you can to, complete all the verifications, get references from friends or family, fill out your profile really well, and just really try to sell yourself and why you're a good candidate for the role. And we've heard of people from all walks of life having success. You don't have to, it's not a special formula.
And stay consistent. I think, again, as a new user, you'll probably get turned down more than you get accepted at the beginning.
Yeah.
And so being consistent, staying up to date with looking at the reviews and making sure your profile is completed. And communicating, just ensuring that you're just being proactive. It's going to be extremely helpful. And it's frustrating, but don't give up, because you'll eventually get that first sit.
Yeah.
And we found that once we got our second to third review from the house sitting, it was just so much easier to get a pet sit lined up.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it takes a while, but once you start, then once you start getting the ball rolling, then people can start believing in you and looking at your reviews and start trusting you as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. I know, like, I've seen so many videos, and obviously you guys work with so many different pets. And so I was just wondering, like, did you guys have to have different experience with all these different pets, or how did you, I guess, navigate through all these different types of pets that you've been looking after?
Yeah, that's a great question too.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we've had experience with most animals that we've cared for. I think the only one we didn't have experience with was a bearded dragon. That was the first time we'd done some sort of more exotic animal. But everything else, we've been, I grew up with with cats my whole life. I actually never had a dog. But the other thing I did, I worked on a horse ranch for about a year during the summer. And so I'm very used to taking care of horses, tacking, grooming, feeding them. So I have that experience there. And so again, it's like for a new user, if you're really not comfortable with taking care of horses or goats or something, you might not want to apply for that sit. And then also in our previous pet sitting, we've taken care of chickens and multiple dogs, things like that. We cared for a lot of animals, and Jory has actually experience with birds.
Yeah, I grew up on a game bird farm, so I have a unique childhood. I grew up, we were raising 30,000 birds a year at one point, and we also had horses and pigs and dogs and cats. It was really fun mayhem. But yeah, so I'm pretty accustomed to pets, but that said, I think the main thing is just being comfortable with pets and being willing to learn, because there are opportunities that we have applied to where we just are upfront. It's like, hey, we might not have experience caring for this specific pet, but because of our experience caring for this kind of pet, we feel comfortable and confident that we could learn and do a great job house sitting for you. And that could go one of two ways. They say, hey, that sounds great. Or they might say, I really need someone with this experience to move forward. And it's all about communication, but you definitely can learn on the job if you have the credentials of being responsible, being willing to learn, and comfort. This comfort is a really big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to put yourself in a situation that you're uncomfortable or unsafe, because it doesn't only affect yourself, it affects everyone involved. And the whole point of the exchange is to make sure everyone's getting a good benefit out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something you've touched on in your videos as well is that it's not so easy. Like, you have to be responsible beings as well.
That's super true. Yeah, because it's all about balancing. And I think we're going to go into that here in a second. But yeah, you have to be responsible and you have to be able to manage your time and you have to be able to prioritize the pets because at the end of the day, nothing matters besides them. The goal is that you get the opportunity to travel, but if something happens and your travel is interrupted because the pet needs to go to the vet or something, then that's your priority. But yeah, I think.
But also on top of that, it's also the safety and maintaining their home, because you're not you're getting both. You're getting their home and their pets. So it's like you don't want to go in and then you're living in their home and you don't clean up after yourself. You leave it a mess after whatever it is you're doing. You want to ensure that you're maintaining the cleanliness and the safety of their home as well as the animals. I mean, they're kind of two peas in a pod.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's not as easy as what they say. Like it's like a free stay. I mean, it is a free stay, of course, but of course, like you said, the pets are the priority, and obviously you're living in someone's home as well, so you have to be respectful for that
Yeah.
as well.
Exactly.
So I did have a really big question here that came in. So the question says, do you always do a lot of research of your sit locations beforehand? Do you plan an itinerary for yourself outside of required pet care time, or are plans more spontaneous?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So, first of all, we are very spontaneous in general. We kind of do this like 3-month stint of we'll decide we're going to travel and house sit in Europe in various places, and then we'll start researching places in Europe we want to go, but we also will look for pet sits and what's available in what countries, what cities. And then we apply to those. And that's when we really start deep diving into itineraries and travel plans. So it's like we set a goal of we want to go to this general region, but we're not hard set personally because we're flexible. We're not hard set on like we have to go to this city. But we could do that. And I guess we've done that like once, but anyway, yeah. And then so what we'll do is we will confirm a house sit and then we really start deep diving into the itinerary because the other thing is the pet owners typically will just lay a bunch of recommendations down for us. Like while you're here, you have to do this and you have to eat here. And so realistically, we don't do a lot of planning because
we do some general planning, but then typically our plans kind of go out the window.
Yeah.
It looks a lot cooler. Let's go travel here for the day.
Or it'll be like, oh, this place is really tourist heavy at this time that we have available, so we're gonna go here. So it is very just like fluid for us.
Yeah, we're not huge itinerary followers, but we'll put general feelers out there.
Yeah, but as far as like pet balancing with the pet care responsibilities goes, so say for like a dog that we have 4 to 6 hours in between, then yeah, we'll just plan itineraries to fill out time. So it's
if we can only be away for 4 to 6 hours, we'll then make sure whatever plans we're filling in abide to those times away.
Yeah.
So do usually pet owners tell you like, okay, like the dog can only be away for 6 hours max or 4 hours max?
Yeah.
That's typically kind of the first thing that people will have in the responsibility list is kind of what their pet's requirements are, and then also how long they can be left away. But if they don't post that in their listing and we apply to their sit, we talk to them. We're always very open to communicate that because again, we also want to make sure that we have time to do something. There's some people that their animal can't be left alone for more than an hour. And so for us, it's like, well, we can't even go out to dinner at that time. So we typically will pass on that sit and look for something that gives us a little more flexibility because we want to be able to go out and have a nice dinner or go sightsee while we're in a new country. So again, people are very usually upfront about that, especially if their animal is a little more demanding. So then again, it comes down to your own personal preference of what you want to do and how long you want to be away for.
Yeah, because that really is key. It's up to you to decide what you want to accomplish out of your travels or whatever you're doing, and then finding sits that meet those goals. And yeah, so that's kind of what we live by.
Yeah.
like that. I like how you have some flexibility. So, do you have some of, I know you mentioned it just a little bit, but what are some of your requirements that you want? Like you said, you might want to make sure that you have 46 hours, or, what are some of your requirements that you're looking for when you're looking for a sit?
Yeah, it's a good one. Well, again, so that kind of changes depending on the region we're traveling to, but typically, we try to look for places that are accessible to public transport. If specifically, if we don't have a car, like our last trip here in the United States, we got our car, so it didn't matter. But we like to have access to public transport. And as far as the pets go, basically, we will be flexible regarding how long we can be away. I think the least amount of time away that we have agreed to house sit for, if that makes sense, was 4 hours. And that still worked out. That was the puppy we house sat in Singapore. And it was fine because we just, it's so accessible to get around in Singapore. So we take her out for walks, playtime, go out for a few hours, come back, and then spend the rest of the day hanging out with her, just enjoying the home and working, whatever. And that was just fine.
Yeah. But then there's some there's some dogs that are adventure dogs, like our last one up in Victoria. She would go anywhere and everywhere with us. So, that's something we also look for is like, well, we won't leave the dog at home. We'll take them hiking with us. We'll go to the local cafe with us. And so we look for those types of sits as well, because something about taking a dog down a pier to look at cruise ships it's such a fun experience because we have an animal that we get to share that with, and they kind of know the way around. And so they're our tour guide in a sense. So and so it's a good way to communicate with the locals because they have to pet your dogs and then talk to people and kind of pick their brains of what's going on.
Yeah. But specifically too about like the pets. So we also look for behavior and requirements in terms of like medical needs and things like that. Because there are certain things that we don't feel qualified for. So if a dog is reactive or something like that, or maybe they're not great around other dogs, we're pretty on the line of like what we will take on or not. Because again, it's like we just don't feel we have those qualifications to make sure that that dog is for sure safe and that we're for sure safe. So we'll pass unless someone that's it who is. And then also like medical needs. If a dog needs a pill in the morning or night, whatever, but sometimes they'll need injections for various reasons. And that's another one, depending on the situation, maybe not. But behavior is a big one.
Yeah. And then again, also destination on where we're going. If we do have the opportunity to choose the location, we like to choose cats. Like we did one in Munich, Germany during Oktoberfest. It was 2 cats that could be left alone for up to 10 hours. So it was like the perfect opportunity. And so cats are much less maintenance than, say, a dog, which is another thing we look for. So cats are a good way to be able to go out and explore long periods of time. And yeah, so there's so many varieties of sits we look for in pets. But yeah.
Yeah, I think you outlined such great ones to start with, just for anyone who's, thinking about like, what are some of the things that I would look for in order to enjoy my travels? Because obviously, like you said, pets are the priority, but you also want to give yourself some time to travel because that's the point of the exchange as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. At least for what we're doing, because, sometimes we're just looking for a place to hunker down and get a lot of work done. And in that case, it's like if we need to be around most of the day, it works out just fine because that's what we'd be doing anyway. So
yeah,
it just changes. It just depends on our life at the time.
Yeah, and obviously being flexible and different times of the year as well. So like maybe you need a few days to just sit down and work, or just need a few days that you want to travel. So it's a balancing act.
100%.
Awesome. I know that something that is really big as well is a lot of people asking about safety. So is it safe to, live in people's home? Is it safe to do this? Is it safe to take care of pets? Like, what is your take on safety?
Yeah. So that's a great question. To us, staying in someone's home is pretty much the equivalent of renting an Airbnb. Obviously, it's not the exact same, but we actually feel more comfortable because we get to know these people on a personal basis. And We also, we're getting connected with their emergency contacts and their neighbors next door and their family members. And so, and on the flip side, it's like they're trusting us with their baby. And so we feel pretty safe that we're going to be okay going into these people's homes. But we do a lot of verification on the back end.
Yeah, there's a lot of steps that we also take on top of, just through the app. We do the application, we submit of like why we'd be a good fit, but then after that, we typically will ask to do a video interview, face to face, get to know each other, talk, learn about each other a little bit more, and then our favorite thing to do, or like the biggest thing we like to do, is a walkthrough of the home, and then to like meet the pet through the screen. We found that this allows us to verify that the listing photos match, and so then we can kind of see how the home already looks in a, before we get there, before they fully clean it up, we kind of get an idea of how they live, what their house looks like. And so that's another step we take to ensure that we're safe.
Yeah. And then, there have been times where we have turned down house sits because either we didn't get the best vibe, like connecting with somebody, or maybe we did decide, well, I don't know if that area is unwalkable. Is, like for me, if I'm going to go out by myself walking the dog, am I going to feel comfortable in that specific area? And yeah, sometimes the biggest thing is what we do is we just communicate with the pet owner, and we're just very upfront, like, hey, how safe is your neighborhood? Do you typically walk around alone at night? Do you lock your car at night? And questions like that, to try and just get a good idea of not just, we're trying to get an idea of like the home, the pets, and the general location when we're talking to people to make sure it's a good fit. And then also you can just look at the reviews. If you're really nervous, like you're just starting out, we would recommend that we only apply to house sits with at least like 3+ reviews. And then definitely do the video call. And
and then also consider starting local, because if you start local, then you can at least communicate with the homeowner that you want to do a meet and greet before, so then you can actually go to their home, see the way that they live, and then make sure that they are who they say they are.
Yeah, and not everything's good.
And that's what we did to start out, and it really made us comfortable because we actually saw that this platform works, and these people are, who they say they are.
Yeah, we did that for our very first sit. We met them before confirming, because it was just here in our hometown.
Yeah, we did that a couple times.
Yeah,
the one in Redmond too.
Yeah, and obviously, that's not feasible if you're applying to a sit halfway across the world. But that's where it's like trying to start local if you can, if there's sits in your area. It's a good way to kind of dip your toes in and get comfortable.
Yeah, but also on top of that, we
go ahead.
Like when you do get accepted, another way to maintain safety is to consider talking with them to come a day early, or a few hours early before the homeowner actually departs for their vacation or whatever they're doing. That way they can do a walkthrough of your responsibilities, kind of give you the idea of what the commands are for their animal, and
emergency switches. They can show you where that's
show you where the shut-off valves are for water and stuff. So then that way, instead of, it keeps you safe by knowing what the home is like and what the pets are. And then it's also a really good way for the animal to be able to feel comfortable with you coming into their home for the first time. Because some animals will be a little shy. It's like, oh, I don't know who you are. But when you're with the owner and they see that you're friends, and they introduce you, they're more willing, or they're more open to be friendly quicker, is what we found.
Yeah, and I think those are great tips. And I want to also ask you, so how early do you usually go in for your sit? Like, do you usually go a day earlier so you could, stay a day with the owners, or maybe just like you said, like just a few hours before usually?
We usually try to do at least one overnight stay. That tends to just be because of the way we're traveling, that we like to arrive, have dinner with each other, and then kind of have the morning to go through routines and such. But it totally depends on their schedule and our schedule. We've come as early as 3 days before the start of the sit.
Yeah.
We've left as late as like 2 weeks, but that was also situational. But again, I guess the thing is, it's about safety, and aligning up everybody's schedules, but it's also just about the community. We've become really close friends with a lot of the pet owners we've house sat for. And yeah, it's pretty amazing. We've become really close friends and we stay in touch till this day, and we want to return and house sit for them in the future. Yeah, and those interactions, having those days together just really solidifies that. It's the reason we're so close with a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I could see that relationship being really strong because they're trusting you with their babies, like you said.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's amazing. So another thing I wanted to ask is, I think we wanted to talk about creative ways of how people can house sit. So do you think it's mostly for people who like can only be digital nomads who are full-time, or can it also be for other type of people?
Yeah, this is one of this is one of my favorite topics to go into, because I think a lot of people who see what we do, it's like, oh, I have to do this full time to travel to Europe and kind of live the lifestyle. But I think if you open it up to a little bit of a way to be creative with it, is say you're interested in moving to a new city, but you aren't sure if you're going to like the city. So what I've heard from people is they'll buy or rent a hotel room for a week, and they'll go to that city and they'll live in that city for the week to gauge if that's somewhere they want to go. And in my opinion, what you could do instead is do a pet sit in that city. And so then you're really immersing yourself in that local culture. You're able to see if this is the community that you want to live in. You can gauge if it's a dog-friendly environment, if it's a easy walkable city, if they have good public transportation, what the traffic's like. It really then, instead of spending those large fees to stay in hotels, you really can minimize the expense, and then you really get to see the life of that city in a more immersive way than staying in a hotel where everyone's catering to you. There, you're actually walking with the locals who do the day-to-day lifestyle there.
Yeah, maybe the neighbors.
Yeah, going to the grocery stores. So that's one way I think that people can use it to be creative and to save money if they want to go and live in a different city, which I think is super valuable, especially talking to people who have done it and they're like, yeah, I spent $3,000 to stay a week and a half in Boulder, Colorado, just to see if I wanted to live there. And turns out I didn't want to. And it's like, well, you could have potentially house sat there for that same amount of time. And maybe your experience would have been different because you're living in a certain part of a neighborhood that you really liked.
Yeah.
So that's one way.
Yeah. And then some other ones is, you could just do it for a weekend getaway, or really as long as your trip is, of course, depending, you might need to have some flexibility of where you want to go. You need to open it up like, okay, I have 2 weeks to travel abroad. I want to go somewhere in somewhere in Europe. And so then you're keeping it a little broad, looking for sits that align with your dates. If you're trying to be like, I need to go to Italy, to this city for these dates, that's probably going to be a tough one for you.
It's definitely.
Yeah. But, we know people all walks of life doing this: retirees, gap year students, moms who want to get away from their children for the weekend. And it's a great budget.
Or an educator, if you're an educator who has the 3 month summer vacations, and you just want to go travel, and you can't, it saves you so much money on the accommodation cost. It's like, well, I want to go on vacation for this amount of time, but I can't afford it. But now with this, you have that opportunity to afford a little bit more travel.
But of course, on the flip side, you are signing up for the responsibility of a home and potentially pets. Again, you kind of can determine how much responsibility you're accepting, but it's not just a free stay vacation where you can just go out and have no worries. You have to be able to manage that stuff.
Yeah, you do take on responsibilities.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point because obviously everyone's probably looking at house sitting. They're like, oh, this is great. Of course, it's a free stay, but like you said, you do have responsibilities with that, and that's something that people have to keep in mind, I feel.
Yeah, you're always on. That's the thing. It's like, even if you have a cat, like we've had an 18-year-old cat who slept mostly all the time besides to eat. But regardless, we're always on to make sure she's doing okay. And that's the thing. It's like you definitely don't fully.
Yeah, when you take on this lifestyle, you're not getting the vacation of no responsibility. You know, you're staying at a resort in Bali or something. You don't have anything to worry about. On the flip side, if you're doing house sitting, you definitely have some sort of responsibility you have to maintain. So it adds a little bit more of a stress, if you want to say that, into that travel. But I think for what we've done and for what you can do, you can really make sure that it's a really inclusive and fun way to travel.
Yeah, and I think it's that local experience really, because like you said, you're living in a neighborhood, you're living in a local's home, you're getting to know the homeowners. So it's the full experience as well.
Yeah. And for us, a big one is also the comfortability of the homes, because on the budget that we would be able to do a lot to travel, we'd be staying in like the dingiest hostels. But because we're house sitting, we're able to still be comfortable and travel freely. And that's big for us for being budget travelers.
Yeah, 100%. And I know some of these websites and some of these homes, they're very big and nice as well.
Yeah, you can definitely find some great opportunities. And I think, they're not always going to be that. Yeah, but sometimes
You can get it.
sometimes you get an in-home movie theater.
Yes, and I think you stayed in one recently, right?
Yeah. We watched way too many movies, or maybe not enough.
That sounds great. So I wanted to also ask you about platforms, because obviously you've been using a platform or maybe using multiple platforms in order to get these house sits. So is there anything you can recommend here?
Definitely. Yeah, so there's tons of new websites and there's old websites out there that people can use. The one that we predominantly use is Trusted House Sitters. This is the website that, it's mainly used to find worldwide sits. It's been around for over 10 years. It has over 100,000 active users. So it's a very big community of people. But there's also a lot of other ones that are regional. So there's like House Sitters America, which then has sister sites for like House Sitters Australia, or Australian House Sitters, Kiwi House Sitters. Then there's rover.com, which we mentioned earlier, which allows you to get paid sit opportunities. I think WAG was one we mentioned.
Yeah, Nomador, Mind a Home, House Sit Mexico. There's really a lot. You can find them on Facebook groups.
Yeah.
So what we kind of tell people is to think about what they want to gain out of the platform that they're house sitting through. And that will help you determine which platform is best for you. So if you're just looking for just straight across matching service, you want the bare minimum, you just want to be able to find house sitting opportunities, then there are some house sitting sites out there that are for house sitters really low cost to join, like $29 for the year or something. With that, you're going to have limited opportunities. The platform's not going to offer much. It might be pretty old interface, stuff like that. But it's going to get you connected with people for a really low cost.
Yeah.
And then, if you're wanting to look for paid opportunities, that's where like House Sitters America, Rover, WAG, sites like that are also great. They have great interfaces. Might be a little more to join, but not much. And then it's like, if you want the premium to go anywhere in the world with the most amount of opportunities, that's when we recommend Trusted House Sitters. So it just really comes down to what you are hoping to gain from a platform.
Yeah, and I like how you listed out different options based on price points and based on, what you're looking for, and obviously geographically as well, which can differ for each person, depending on where they want to go or where they live even. I did want to ask you about like the ones that you mentioned for paid house sitting, like Rover and WAG. Do they usually provide accommodation as well, or are they mostly just kind of go in and out of the house?
Yeah, they're definitely going to be more of that go in and out, but they do have overnight house sitting. I don't know as much about lag, but for Rover, the biggest challenge with Rover is house owners have to find you. So you don't have the opportunity to go look for sits that fit your schedule, that, align with your goals. And that's a challenge. And that's why we don't really use Rover. But House City, like using House Sitters America, that is a great opportunity because you can actually actively search for sits that are paid and free and apply to them and find ones that fit your needs. Whereas Trusted House Sitters, not paid, but
Yeah, it's all free.
Amazing. So yeah, so it really depends on, do you want to get paid or not, and obviously location as well. So I like that you've listed out the different options for depending on what people are looking for, really. And then my last question, I guess, is what advice would you give for somebody who wants to start this lifestyle?
Great question.
like my first.
Yeah.
I think something I like to tell people is to be open-minded and to be flexible. I think, some people might go and we keep telling you like, have your goals, have your ideas of what you want to accomplish. But on the flip side, be open to trying new things. If you want to house sit in a specific area in France, but nothing's coming up, but a house sit comes up in a rural area and it's perfect for your dates and the pets seem perfect for your qualifications, why not apply and see if that's a great experience for you? And being able to adapt to different situations, because sometimes you might show up to a house sit and things could be a little different than you anticipate, or you just, I guess just that. It might be a little different than you anticipated. And so being able to adapt to that and try to keep a positive attitude will be the best way for you to have a good experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just have fun with it. Being diligent again, because it can be competitive to get some good house sits. So as you're starting out, don't give in. Don't give up. Just make sure that what you're doing and is what you want to do, and stay persistent, because that's what's gonna get you to the sit that you want. It takes time, it takes effort. Nothing is really given to you. You definitely have to work at it, and you have to earn things. And that's one of those things that I would recommend is just stay persistent, because you'll eventually get there. It's gonna take some time and effort, but once you do it, I think you'll love the lifestyle, especially if you get the sit that you want. And over time, once you get those ones that are just incredible, you're going to feel like this lifestyle is the one for you. But that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, and I think those are great tips. And I think it's that idea of trial and error, right? Like if you go to one state, you're like, oh, it's in a rural area. Okay, that's not for me because I can't go anywhere. And it's, I don't have public transportation. Then you know that, okay, next time I'm going to prioritize on finding a place that is closer to the city, for example.
Yeah, so true. Because I think what I've seen a lot, and we've both seen a lot, is people will join these sites with the idea that, I'm going to find this dream house sit in a mansion with a dog that is just my best pal and it's going to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And then they come to find out it's really competitive to get those house sits, or the dog might require more attention than they expected, or be a little more work than they anticipated, whatever it is. And then they will blame the platform and give it up forever and say, this was the worst experience ever. And I think you hit it right on the head. It's really about trial and error. Just be patient, be open-minded, and just learn from your mistakes, or learn not even mistakes sometimes, just what you could do to improve on your experience the next time.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the biggest takeaway that I've had listening to you guys. It's just like getting to understand what you're looking for, and trying to communicate that, to make sure that this is the kind of house that I want, and that I'm able to fulfill whatever the owner is looking for as well, and trying to find that balance in between.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I see the comments coming in. People says, thank you so much. Super helpful. You guys are amazing. Thanks for doing this live. Super insightful and some great advice. So I think we've all had a great time.
Yeah, this is our first ever live. So thank you everyone who joined us. And thank you so much for having us on this live.